Alright, welcome back. I got a little bonus video for you guys. I'm up on the catwalk of the Vorhees Theater. Right. So I just entered through there. Over here, right, we got like a follow spot. Right, so if you say in lighting, you know, you bring this probably over here. And you can do a follow spot on maybe somebody on stage or like an entrance or whatever. There's one over here and the one behind me. This is the catwalk. Right. So this right now we're gonna go over the audience and then eventually over the stage. Now anytime you go on the catwalk, you need to empty your pockets, right? Usually you just put your stuff like in a bin, like on a table, or you know, say like in your tool bag, whatever, and you just leave it over there. Like any loose shit, right? So like your keys, whatever, any like dangly bits, pens and things that clip onto your pants, just take all that stuff, put it in a tool bag, right? Because if you sort of forget about it, right, you reach into your pocket to get, say, a tool you need, and you know the pen goes with it, you know the pen might fall on somebody who's working below you, and you don't want that. So, and then when you are up here, like your tools that you need, like your C-wrench, or whatever wrench you have, all that stuff is tethered, right? So it's like a loop that attaches to your belt. This way, like if something does happen, like you trip, whatever, the wrench doesn't fall below the catwalk, it just falls like here, and then it's tethered to your belt. So, you can see, it goes a little bit that way. And we got like, every so often you got these little outlets, right? And I say outlets as in like pathways, not like plug-in outlets, but referring to electrical, right? All along the catwalk, we have spots where you do plug in your lights. So you hang it to the rail, plug it in, and everything's already like labeled and everything. So. And you don't hang to this rail or this rail. You specifically hang on this one. And then depending on the theater you're in or the venue you're in, they have different spots. Sometimes they're a lot higher, right? So sometimes they're like up here. Yeah. So you got some electrical on that side. Keep going. Right, and then you can see we have some house lights. So these are, you know, theatrical lights, but they're just always wired so that when we need light in the space or light to work on stage, like those are ready to go. A couple more sort of outlets, left and right. A little bit further. And this is, yeah, one more. And one more. Now you can't go further onto the stage, right? We sort of have, you know, the building or the roof, whatever, in our way. So, but yeah, from here, you know, we might hang, you know, a pipe below the catwalk that has, you know, soft goods or sometimes a speaker array, something like that. Now you can kind of see we have this truss installed, has a span set, and you can kind of see there's like another little cable. That's a safety cable, right? Because these are nylon span sets, so we need to have a steel safety or steel redundancy. And then those, let me see if I could shine some light. Right, so you have the motor on a trolley, and then, you know, these are the I-beams going this way. I think there's some over there. So yeah, you come up in a genie, you put the trolley in, you hang your motor to the trolley, and then you could operate the chain hoist. And we use the motors for all of the things that we hang. So yeah, the truss that we hang, we have that batten that goes across, and there's another batten over there. The only thing that is not on a motor is the projection screen. So we do have a projection screen hidden in this box, but that's always just dead hang, always there. The switch for that top rate that is down in the back. So yeah, this is a catwalk. You should never be like afraid when you're on these things. You always want to be careful, right? Because there's say example like in this spot, it's not like a whole lot of railing. So if you lean the wrong way or whatever, you could potentially fall. But usually if you were to be in that predicament, you'd be wearing a harness. But students, sort of never in that situation anyway. Here we have, this is pretty cool. So we set up this sort of ladder on, built with some pipes, because we need to access, let's see, get my light out again. We need to access that span set over there to hang a motor. Right, so sometimes we do hang stuff over the audience. Right, there's another spot. This one I guess could be easily reached from the catwalk itself. But we have these, one over there and one over there. So yeah, it's pretty much that. It's the catwalk. One thing I will say, when you're working, above other people, right? So say there were people down there, and you're working up here. Depending on what you're doing, right? So if you're assembling something up here, or if you're attaching something, like this, whatever. Typically, you call out below. You say, loose hardware, and then the person that's on deck, right, or below you, or within that sort of area. They'll say, loose hardware, thank you. Right? You always want to get that confirmation, right? And you always, want to do your best to let people know down there that you're working above. Now this is, a little bit different depending on the venue, right? If you're working on a big proscenium house where it's like 50 feet between you and then the person on deck, usually the crew chief or the deck chief will tell everyone down there to wear hard hats, and it's sort of like implied that somebody's up there, somebody's sort of working at height. However, right, if you're working with something and say you're putting up some hardware for like a pick point, or you're hanging some sort of pulley, whatever, if you drop it, and that it's going to go through, say, this sort of steel grate, or if you're working over here and there's nothing to sort of stop it, what you have to do always is call heads, right? So you don't say heads up, right? Normally you say heads. And sort of the louder you scream heads dictates the severity of what you dropped, right? So if you drop something, really heavy, or if you drop a tool like a wrench or a hammer, you want to yell a little bit louder, right? Sometimes you want to even yell twice. If you drop, say, a nut and bolt, you still want to say heads, but maybe not as aggressive, right? Because if you sort of scream too loud for like a little piece of hardware, some people might panic, right? And you sort of you don't want that too. So it's a balance. All right, so if you drop something, it's like heads, but if you drop something heavy, like you gotta yell, right? Or if you drop, say you're working with like a lighting instrument or a speaker, and you drop that, like you gotta yell. There's been a couple times I've worked in venues where This school actually being one of them, where a student, when I was a student, somebody dropped something. It wasn't too heavy, but it was close to hitting me, and they didn't call heads, right? So of course, I made us think about it. You look up to the person who's sort of working, and you sort of call them out on their shit, right? You say, what the fuck's the matter with you? You should have called heads. Put them on the spot, right? Don't feel like, oh, it was an accident, right? Because you want them to realize that they put you in a situation where you could have been hurt, right? And they didn't really care. So you want to like be assertive, but don't like bitch about it all day, right? Just tell them next time, hey, fucking do the right thing, call heads. If somebody dropped like a pencil or a pen, and you're not that high up, you don't have to be such an ass about it. But if somebody dropped like a wrench, if somebody dropped like a set of bolts or like a pulley, right, and they didn't call heads, like definitely call them out on it. Be respectfully. So yeah, that's pretty much that. It's the catwalk. Now some theaters, this sort of like steel mesh, the steel like grating that I'm on, some venues will have it where the whole thing is this material, right? Some venues will just have sort of sections, right? So you have one main section and then like some cross ones. Another common one was the tension grid, right? So that's aircraft cable, and then it's like woven, right, over and under all different strands, all different directions, to create like a net almost. And usually those are the entire like grid, right? Usually you don't see sections like this in the aircraft variety. That's just sort of like a standard, right? If it's sort of a pathway, it's just going to be steel. So yeah, that's that. See you in the next one.